Okay, so now we are on to the second book of Moses called Exodus. So, let's see here. First book of Moses. He wrote those, and then what did he write? The Exodus, and then Moses wrote the first three books, right? Third book of Moses, Leviticus. Okay, they're called the books of the law. Exodus. Oh, here's something interesting. You can look up the names of, like, what does Genesis mean? Genesis, huh? Genesis. Let's see. Definition. The origin or coming into being of something. How to use Genesis in a sentence. The mainly narrative first book of the Jewish and Christian scriptures. Means origin. Omega. Remember, God says He's the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. It says synonyms are beginning, birth, commencement, dawn, day one, inception, launching, morning. And then the antonyms are close, conclusion, ending, omega. See, he says He's the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. When we talk about God and what He says in the Bible. And then just search. Exodus is outflow, outpour, outpouring. Antonyms are flux, inflow. But it's the biblical book that describes the departures of the Israelites from Egypt. So it's no surprise that the word has come to refer more generally to any mass departures. That's Exodus. And then Leviticus. It's the third book of the canonical Jewish and Christian scripture, consisting mainly of priestly legislation. The first known use of Leviticus is defined as above. And it says late Latin, literally of the Levites. So it's basically just the third book of the Bible. They're not showing any meaning other than the Bible. All right. Let's just close that. All right. Second book of Moses called Exodus. So we're just going to read one or two. We're going to take our time like we did. And this book is only 40. The first one was 50. I think Leviticus is less than 30. Oh, well, we got the fourth book of Moses, Numbers. But that's not considered the law. The first three books are considered the law. I think Numbers is rather long. It's like maybe not. not too bad. 36, and this book of Moses is Deuteronomy. And let's see, picture in there. And then is it Joshua? 1 second. The book of Joshua. So Moses has all the way to Deuteronomy. Okay. Anyways, my hands are dry. So now these are the names of the children of Israel who came to Egypt. Each man and his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All those who were descendants of Jacob were 70 persons, for Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, all his brothers, and all that generation. But the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, multiplied and grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose a new king over Egypt who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, Look, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply, and it happen in the event of war that they also join our enemies and fight against us, and so go up out of the land. Therefore they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh supply cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were in dread of the children of Israel. Because no matter what they did, they kept multiplying, right? And you know, that is so true in the world today. No matter how many times they try to abort children, no matter how many times, you know, they'll say in Africa, when they told us that everybody was going to die from AIDS over there. And no matter what the starvation, you see that the people continue to multiply. Look at China and all the babies that they have killed, trying to control population, and rather doing it in a loving, godly way, they do it in a murderous way. Just like some of these politicians don't care if the people in their nation starve or live in poverty. And because they are doing these things they are doing things through evil to try to control things, it's not working out for them. So the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and brick and in all manner of service in the field. All their service in which they made them serve was with rigor. Then the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other was Puah. And he said, When you do the duties of the midwife for the Hebrew women, and see them on the birth stools, if it is a son, then you shall kill him, but if it is a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the male children alive. Which is funny because they wanted those male children killed, right? So that they couldn't procreate. And you'll see that the stupidity of the Chinese people who are trying to control population so they're allowed to have one, keep the male child, right? Because he's the male child. And they kill the female children, which of course is complete stupidity anyways. And it's complete evil, just like the stupidity and evilness of us in the West who think it's okay to kill unborn babies as a way to solve our problems, which is just incredibly stupid. You don't kill babies to solve problems. It doesn't even make any sense. It solves nothing other than you murdered someone, which creates a ton of problems, and especially when you murder your own child. Of course that's going to create problems. Anyways, but of course the devil, he whispers in the ears of people and convinces them that they're solving their problems, right? When all they've done is create a multitude of problems in their lives. Hold on one second here. Okay, so the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this thing and saved the male children alive?" And the midwife said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them." So they're like, ooh. Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew very mighty. So God was kind to the midwives because they did lie, right? They said we can't get to them fast enough before they have those babies, right? And so it was, because the midwives feared God, that he provided households for them. So Pharaoh, what they did was they feared being without God, and they feared his punishment, because we already know that he will punish right here on this earth, and that people are going to pay for their sins. They're either going to be washed clean by the blood of Jesus Christ, and those who are righteous, right? Because what does it say about righteousness? It covers a multitude of sins. Or they are going to pay for their sins right here on this earth, or they're going to pay for them in hell. So Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "Every son who is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive." And a man of the house of Levi went and took as a wife a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of brushes for him. So she made a little ark, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the riverbank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the maiden went and called the child's mother. So the mother put the baby in the ark, and the sister watched, right, to see what would happen. And Pharaoh's daughter came out and saw that it was a Hebrew child. And so the sister of the baby, right, the Pharaoh's daughter did not know that that was a sister. So she said, "Should I go get a Hebrew woman that can give the baby milk?" And she said, "Go." And so she went and got the child's mother, who put the baby in the reed, right? Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him, and the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." Now it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out to his brethren and looked at their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 Hebrew men were fighting, and he said to the one who did the wrong, "Why are you striking your companion?" Then he said, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" So Moses feared and said, "Surely this thing is known." When Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their father's flock. When the shepherds came and drove them away, Then the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. When they came to Reuel, their father, he said, he said, "How is it that you have come so soon today?" He's asking his daughters, "How did you get here so fast?" And they said, "An Egyptian delivered us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock." So he said to his daughters, "And where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread." Then Moses was content to live with the man, and he gave Zipporah his daughter to Moses. And she bore him a son. He called his name Gershom, for he said, "I have been a stranger in a foreign land." Now it happened in the process of time that the king of Egypt died. Then the children of Israel groaned because of the bondage, and they cried out, and their cry came up to God because of the bondage. So God heard their groaning. Remember, groaning is prayer, right? It's calling to God. And God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God acknowledged them. Now Moses, okay, that's two. We're going to keep it like this. We're going to make short ones because the Old Testament is very long and very involved. And many people find it boring. So we're going to keep the lesson short. So that was 1 and 2 of Exodus. Tomorrow will be 3 and 4 probably, maybe 5. We will see. But that was our first part of Exodus. And remember that God turns his face away from people sometimes, and sometimes he turns his face back towards them. But Jesus is always there. Jesus is the mediator. And so if people call to Jesus and they pray to Jesus, even though it may not be immediately answered, you have to remember that it is important to pray. Just like from the very beginning of time, people understood the fear of God. They understood the fear of God's people, that they should not do anything against his people, right? Or against any of those who he had put his hand upon to do his work. But anyways, that's the very beginning. And we see that even the Pharaoh's daughter had compassion on a Hebrew, not an Egyptian, but a Hebrew, right? Because it was about loyalties. But sometimes a compassion outweighs a loyalty, especially if it's for something evil. Now, some people will get manipulated into doing evil things out of loyalty, which is bad. It is more important to follow what it says in here, and we're not supposed to kill people, even unborn people. Okay, anyways, have a great day.